be honest with you all, this is not a good episode. It's not even fun bad like Sleeping Dragon. It's pretty boring and formulaic, but the ending is fun, so I'm gonna treat this segment almost like a recap so I can move on to the much better next episode. I mean, it starts off at the DMV, that really sets the tone. Anyway, Vance works at the DMV and likes to flirt with this customer, a lady named Jewel. They get to the part about whether or not she wants to consent to being an organ donor, and he mentions that he's one.
You gonna donate your organs and your parts? That's mighty generous of you.
Good deeds his own reward.
So it turns out that, oops, Vance is married and works for his father-in-law, who was totally within earshot while he was flirting with this chick. Meanwhile, it turns out that Jewel is something of a witch in training, and she asks her mentor to help her get this man she wants. I'm sorry, I hate this woman's voice.
No, I swear, Angie, I'm gonna lose my sanity.
Yeah, both of these people are boring assholes, and I give zero fucks about either of them. On top of everything else, Vance's wife is pregnant. Later, Jewel shows up at the DMV around closing time and does a striptease. This is the most boring erotic scene I've ever had to sit through. Anyway, they do it. Then afterwards, Vance admits that he wants his father-in-law to die so he can inherit his money or something.
Buy me a brand new Cadillac.
If I could make it come to pass, would you take your freedom in your hands and drive down that open road? Bring me with you.
And guess who walks in on them?
Not in the Department of Motor Vehicles.
Okay, that's maybe the best line before the final scene.
5 minutes!
Later on, Jerkface actually locks his wife out of the house so he can convince father-in-law not to tell her what happened.
Somebody better tell me something that makes sense, and I mean right now.
He almost does anyway until he starts suffocating due to a curse the witches are putting on him. The next day, Jewel does the typical mistress thing where she calls him at home while his wife is there.
You ain't never gonna see the inside no Cadillac sedan. Not one red cent of my daddy's money, unless you do exactly like he said do.
That a threat, woman?
Cora, you deserve way better than this deadbeat. Later, she does the other typical mistress thing, where she shows up at his door while his wife is there.
I ain't settling for no part of you.
Foreshadowing!
Trouble making a little tramp. You get.
Why does anyone want this average-looking, worthless scumbag? So then Jewel wants to use a love spell on him, but the mentor rightfully thinks she's being an idiot and doesn't want to do it. So Jewel kills her with that breath-stopping spell. Then she does another spell on Vance, where basically he dies and his spirit becomes her love slave. Good for them, I guess. Afterwards, she continues the spell, which involves his spirit returning to his body, which will then come back to her. At midnight, he returns, and this twist is so much better than the rest of this episode deserves.
Too bad you forgot, though. My organ donor card. What's left? That's yours. That's yours forever. Good thing they didn't take all my organs, huh?
Now that's the best line. Terrible episode, but the ending almost makes up for it. Until then, it's just asshole cheats on his wife and everybody gets their comeuppance in the end. It's pretty cliche and boring. It was directed by Manny Coto, who also directed Dr. Giggles. It was written by Edith Swenson, who also wrote The Vampire Hunter and Cocoon, two okay episodes which were still way better than this one. She's got 3 more coming, so hopefully those will be better. Okay, let's move on to a good one. So we open on a salesman, who I'm just gonna mention outright is played by old-timey comedian Soupy Sales. Soupy Sales was in an episode of Monsters. Things are looking up already. Anyway, his car is broken down outside this farmhouse, so this old couple invites him in.
You folks are looking at Howard Philbean, regional retail rep for Peabody and Snodgrass.
Yeah, they don't care much for salesmen, but they're being good hosts anyway.
Cup of coffee. Steady your nerves.
Maybe a little too good. The evening drags for a bit as they're showing him a photo album. Since it's getting late, he asks for a ride to town, but they don't have a car per se.
Only thing we got with wheels, son, is a threshing machine.
And no phone.
Oh, your poor wife will be fit to be tied.
Well, I haven't had the pleasure of holy matrimony just as yet.
So they show him a picture of their daughter Lucy, and naturally he is smitten. Anyway, he's stuck there, but there's nowhere for him to sleep downstairs. However, there is the upstairs bedroom where Lucy is.
There's only one bed up there.
Well, I'll sleep on the edge. She won't even know I'm there.
This sounds like the plot of a porno. But Ma suggests putting a modesty sheet between them.
Howard Philbean is nothing if he's not trustworthy.
Oh, and look how he's just shivering with the damp.
Sure, damp. Turns out she has a lovely singing voice, too. Is anyone else reminded of sirens from Greek mythology right now?
Sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite.
So she's awake, and yeah, I don't think that sheet is gonna do much.
You're one of them traveling salesmen, ain't you?
The firm of Peabody and Snodgrass.
I chuckle a little every time he says Peabody and Snodgrass. Funny words are funny, not to mention his name.
Thanks in no small part to the talents of yours truly, Howard Philbean.
Meanwhile, he's completely falling in love with her silhouette.
A man can't live all by himself in a car, selling his heart out with nobody to...
You sound real lovely, Lucy.
He starts trying to talk her into lowering the sheet, but she keeps using flowery language to imply that she doesn't want to be with anyone who is only into her looks.
It's the beauty inside that matters, don't you think?
I do. Lower the sheet.
Do you like my hair, Howard?
I think it's really clever how they hid her appearance for so long, and once the sheet gets lowered, her back is to the camera, so you'll expect her to have a hideous face or something.
How's a girl to know, Howard?
But no, there's a lot more going on with this episode.
I would love you forever.
Yeah, he's willing to tell her just about anything so he can sleep with her.
Then you must kiss me, Howard, and make an honest woman out of me.
I must.
And then we'll go downstairs, and we'll tell Ma and Pa the wonderful news.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure he even heard what she said.
Anything you say, Lucy.
So she's allowing him a kiss, but he cannot touch her. She's very clear about that. Gotta love that 80s romantic saxophone. But of course he doesn't keep his hands to himself, and touching her seems to cause her skin to melt or something. Bring on the body horror.
Oh, Howard, now look what you've gone and done.
Meanwhile, Ma and Pa know what's going on, and I love how this bit is shot.
I wouldn't trust him no further than I could toss him.
I don't want to hear no more.
Damn salesman.
That choreography, though.
We never even asked him what he had in that sample case.
This is weirdly hypnotic. Now they're switching off again. Meanwhile, Howard has already promised to marry her, and she's gonna hold him to it.
A promise is a promise.
And he cannot get those clothes back on fast enough. Meanwhile, he isn't the first traveling salesman that's tried to woo her.
There was a storm that night, too. The night Charlie had his accident. If only he'd have been true in his affections, none of this would have happened. Don't you know Charlie tried the same fool thing when I told him what was expected of him?
Any weddings tonight, Lucy?
Should we get out the shoes and the rice?
God, these parents are terrible.
I gotta get out of here.
It's just what Charlie said. See how alike you are? Hey, where are you going?
He escapes into what I guess is the attic, but I'm expecting Pinhead to show up any minute. Here's some more body horror where she helps him up when his foot goes through the floor and some of her skin comes off in his hand. But yeah, he's definitely not the first guy this has happened to, as he discovers all these items left by previous salesmen.
How many were there?
In all? Oh, honey, I lost count.
She mentions that the only way out is through a baling chute, which now has a threshing machine under it.
Lucy, it's not too late. We can still get married. See? Your mom and Pa are down there waiting for us.
Oh, he is so full of shit. Definitely a salesman.
And you can go first.
That's just what Charlie did.
But yeah, of course it wasn't going to be that easy.
Year after year. Each one betraying me in turn so that I can't rest in peace.
Holy crap, whatever curse was put on her is terrible.
Lucy, I'm that one. The man you've been searching for. It's not too late.
Dude, you just pushed her into a threshing machine. I'd say it's a little bit too late.
What can I do to prove myself to you?
Kiss me, kiss me, kiss me, kiss me.
But naturally, that's where he ends up. Turns out he was a Bible salesman.
You might have made a good son-in-law, too. Oh, well. Maybe next time.
And so ends The Farmer's Daughter. This was a pretty fun episode. It had a lot of predictable moments and the acting is cheesy, but considering they cast Soupy Sales as the main character, I think it's safe to say it wasn't meant to be taken that seriously. Lucy is interesting. They don't really tell her backstory, they just reveal things about her a little at a time. It seems that there was a curse put on her at some point where a man can't touch her unless he completely falls in love with her personality first. If he touches her out of carnal desire, it hurts her. Kind of an interesting metaphor about relationships there. Also, apparently she can't die and regenerates before the next one comes along. I only caught this on the second viewing, but do you notice how this picture of her in the photo album looks like it might have been taken in the 50s or 60s? I wonder if she's older than she looks. I guess she'll go on like that forever, or at least until she gets internet access. Also, I have to say that even though it may not technically be the best effect, I liked how they used animatronics to portray her after she went through the threshing machine. It's kind of uncanny valley with how her eyes don't look real and her mouth doesn't articulate very much. Like, that's how messed up she got. Also, Soupy Sales was an interesting choice to play opposite her. His acting isn't great, but he's this adorable goofball who seems so wholesome, but he's shown to have a silver tongue as well. Seems like neither of these people are quite how they seem on the surface. I haven't seen the actors who play Ma and Pa in anything, but apparently they're both long-running character actors because their lists on IMDb are a mile long. The director was Michael Warren Powell, who hasn't done much, but he's got 2 more episodes of Monsters coming. It was co-written by Bob Balaban, who is another character actor with a mile-long IMDb list. I guess that's about all I have to say about this one. I guess if pressed, I'd have to admit that it's not great, but it's got fun and interesting characters and some great moments, so it's definitely a breath of fresh air after Love Hurts. Next up is Jar. See you then.
Guess who this is? That's Ma's brother Elmo, the merchant marine. Anybody comes through that door says to Ma, it's Elmo in a dress.